Rita Padakamalam Sri Gurum Vaishnavansam Sri Rupam Gatrajatam Sahagana Raghunathantam Tvam Sajivam Shadaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Sri Vishakhantam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur-Bhakta-Vrinda Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur-Bhakta-Vrinda Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur-Bhakta-Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare
Hare Krishna, Mata. Let us wait another 2 minutes, okay? Then we'll start.
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. Yeah. Let us begin. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukhaṁ karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim Yatkripatamaham vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramanandamamadibam Sri Chaitanyameshwaram Om Apavitra Pavitro Va Sarvavastam Gato Piva Yasmaret Pundarikaksham Sabhyabhyantaram Suchi Sri Vishnu Sri Vishnu Sri Vishnu. Yeah. Today we will read another small book by Srila Prabhupada, Beyond Birth and Death. So we'll start. Yeah. Mata is, yeah, let us start. Samyukta Mata, you want to read?
Yes, Prabhuji. We are not these bodies. ప్రభుజీ శ్లోకం కూడా చదవాలి ప్రభుజీ.
చదవండి చదవండి.
దేహి నిత్యావయోయం దేహే సర్వస్య భారత తస్మాత్ సర్వాణి భూతాని నత్వం శోచితమర్హసి. O descendant of Bharata, he who dwells in the body is eternal and can never be slain. Therefore, you need not grieve for any creature. Bhagavad Gita 2.30. The very first step in self-realization is realizing one's identity as separate from the body. I am not this body, but I am spirit soul is an essential realization for anyone who wants to transcend death and enter into spiritual world beyond. It is not simply a matter of saying I am not this body, but of actually realizing it. This is not as simple as it may seem at first. Although we are not these bodies but are pure consciousness, somehow or other we have become encased with the bodily dress. If we actually want the happiness and independence that transcend death, we have to establish ourselves and remain in our constitutional position as pure consciousness.
Yes. Thank you, Mataji. Hema Mataji, yes, go ahead. Hare Krishna. Yeah.
Yes, Prabhu. Living in the bodily conception, our idea of happiness is like that of a man in delirium. Some philosophers claim that this delirious condition of bodily identification should be cured by abstaining from all action. Because these material activities have been a source of distress for us, they claim that we should actually stop these activities. Their culmination of perfection is in a kind of Buddhistic nirvana in which no activities are performed. Buddha maintained that due to a combination of material elements, this body has come into existence, and that somehow or other, if these material elements are separated or dismantled, the cause of suffering is removed. If the tax collectors give us too much difficulty because we happen to possess a large house, one simple solution is to destroy the house. However, Bhagavad Gita indicates that this material body is not all in all. Beyond this combination of material elements, there is spirit, and the symptom of that spirit is consciousness. Consciousness cannot be denied. A body without consciousness is a dead body. As soon as consciousness is removed from the body, the mouth will not speak, the eye will not see, nor the ears hear. A child can understand that. It is a fact that consciousness is absolutely necessary for the animation of the body. What is this consciousness? Just as heat or smoke are symptoms of fire, so consciousness is a symptom of the soul. The energy of the soul or self is produced in the shape of consciousness. Indeed, consciousness proves that the soul is present. This is not only the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita, but the conclusion of all Vedic literature.
Thank you, Mataji. Tulsi Mata, you want to read?
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah.
The impersonalist school of Shankaracharya, as well as the Vaishnavas following in the disciplic succession from the Lord Krishna, acknowledge the factual existence of soul, but the Buddhist philosophers do not. The Buddhists contend that at a certain stage, the combination of matter produces consciousness. But this argument fact that although we have all the constituents of matter at our disposal, we cannot produce consciousness from dead man, but we cannot revive that man to consciousness. This body is not like a machine. When a part of machine breaks down, it can be replaced and the machine will work again. But when the body breaks down and consciousness leaves the body, there is no possibility of our replacing the broken part and regenerating the consciousness. The soul is different from the body, and as long as the soul is there, the body is animate. But there is no possibility of making the body animate in the absence of soul, because we cannot perceive the soul by our gross senses.
we deny it. Actually, there are so many things that are there which we cannot see. We cannot see air, radio waves, or sound, nor can we perceive minute bacteria with our blunt senses, but this does not mean they are not there. By the aid of microscope and other instruments, many things can be perceived which had previously been denied by the imperfect senses. Just because the soul, which is atomic in size, has not been perceived yet by senses or instruments, we should not conclude that it is not there. It can, however, perceived by its symptoms and effects.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. Venela Mataji, you want to read?
Yes, correct. In Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna points out that all of our miseries are due to false identification with the body. Matra sparsastu kaunteya, sitoshna sukhadukkada, agama payana nitya stamtitikshva bharata. O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of heat and cold, happiness and distress, and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, O scion of Bharata, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. Bhagavad Gita 2.14. In the summertime, we may feel pleasure from the contact with water, but in the winter, we may shun that very water because it's too cold. In either case, the water is the same, but we perceive it as pleasant or painful due to its contact with the body. All feelings of distress and happiness are due to the body. Under certain conditions of the body and mind feel happiness and distress. So actually, we are hankering after happiness for the soul's constitutional position is that of happiness. The soul is part and parcel of the Supreme Being, who is Sachidananda Vigraha, the embodiment of knowledge, bliss, and eternity. Indeed, with the very name Krishna, which is non-sectarian, means the greatest pleasure. Krish means the greatest, and Na means pleasure. Krishna is the epitome of pleasure, and being part and parcel of him, we hanker for pleasure. A drop of ocean water has all the properties of the ocean itself, and we, although minute particles of the Supreme Whole, have same energetic properties of the Supreme. The atomic soul, although so small, is moving the entire body to act in so many wonderful ways. In the world, we see so many cities, highways, bridges, great buildings, monuments, and great civilizations. But who has done all this? It is done by the minute spirit spark within the body. If such wonderful things can be performed by the minute spirit spark, we cannot begin to imagine what can be accomplished by the Supreme Spirit Whole. The natural hankering of the minute spirit spark is for the qualities of the whole knowledge, bliss, and eternality, but these hankerings are being frustrated due to the material body. The information on how to attain the soul's Prabhu, can you start?
How to attain the soul's desire
is given in the Bhagavad Gita. At present, we are trying to attain eternity, bliss, and knowledge by means of an imperfect instrument. Actually, our progress towards these goals is being blocked by the material body. Therefore, we have to come to a realization of our existence beyond the body. Theoretical knowledge that we are not these bodies will not do. We have to keep ourselves always separate as masters of the body, not as servants. If we know how to drive a car well, it will give us good service. But if we do not know how, we will be in
danger. Yeah.
Danger.
Okay, Mataji.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Sirisha Mataji, you want to read?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah, go ahead. The body.
The body is composed of senses, and the senses are always hungry after their objects. The eyes see a behind birth and death. The eyes see a beautiful person and tell us, oh, there is a beautiful girl, a beautiful boy. Let's go see. The ears are telling us, oh, there is very nice music. Let us go hear it. The tongue is saying, oh, there is a very nice restaurant with palatable dishes. Let us go. In this way, the senses are dragging us from one place to another.
And because of this, we are perplexed. Indriyanam hi charatam, Indriyanam hi charatam, yanmano nuvidiyate, tad asya harati prajanam vayor navam ivambasi. As a boat on the water is swept away by a strong wind, even one of the senses on which the mind focuses can carry away a man's intelligence. Bhagavad Gita 2.67. It is imperative that we learn how to control the senses. The name Goswami is given to someone who has learned how to master the senses. Go means senses and Swami means controller. So one who can control the senses is to be considered a Goswami. Krishna indicates that one who identifies with the illusory material body cannot establish himself in his proper identity as a spiritual soul. Bodily pressure is flickering and intoxicating, and we cannot actually enjoy it because of its momentary nature. Actually pressure is of the soul, not the body. We have to mold our lives in such a way that we will not be diverted by bodily pressure. If somehow we are diverted, it is not possible for us to establish our consciousness in its true identity behind the body.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mother. Yes. Last lines are very good. Huh? Actual pleasure is of the soul, not the body. We have to mold our lives in such a way that we will not be diverted by bodily pleasure. That means using our senses in the service of Krishna, right? Seeing beautiful deity form of Krishna, seeing wonderful devotees, take only prasadam, same senses only, eyes, ear, tongue, right? Same senses only where we place our consciousness. That's the thing. If somehow we are diverted, it is not possible for us to see. That's a problem with the senses. Distracted senses or diverted senses. It's not possible for us to establish our consciousness in its true identity beyond the body. So beyond the body means on the soul platform, right? Yeah. Let me read this part. Bhogaishwarya prasaktanam taya pahruta chetasam vyavasayatmika buddhihi samadhavna vidhiyate traigunya vishaya veda nistraigunya bhavajuna nirdvandvo nitya sattvasto niryoga kshema atmavan. In the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence and who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination for devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place. The Vedas deal with the subject of the three modes of material nature. Rise above these modes, O Arjuna. Be transcendental to all of them. Be from all dualities and from all anxieties for gain and safety. And be established in the self. Bhagavad Gita 2.44 and 45. So, Bhogaishwarya Prasaktana, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. So there, if we place these senses in material sense gratification, then that is what condition. Resolute determination does not take place. Resolute in determination for devotion service does not take place because it's very difficult. That's where Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhaktiruchyate. Bhakti talks about, right? Rishikena Rishikena Rishikesha. Rishikesha means control of the senses. Rishikena. Who is the controller of senses? Krishna. Rishikena means senses, engaging the controller of the senses. Who is it? Krishna. So that's where how we can control. It's a gradual process. Yes. Yeah. Let us read again, Mataji. Samyukta Mataji, go ahead.
Yes, Prabhuji. The word Veda means book of knowledge. There are many books of knowledge which vary according to the country, population, environment, etc. In India, the books of knowledge are referred to as the Vedas. In the West, they are called the Old Testament and New Testament. The Mohammedans accept the Quran. What is the purpose for all these books of knowledge? They are to train us to understand our position as pure soul. Their purpose is to restrict bodily activities by certain rules and regulations, and these rules and regulations are known as codes of morality. The Bible, for instance, has 10 commandments intended to regulate our lives. The body must be controlled in order for us to reach the highest perfection, and without regulated principles, it is not possible to perfect our lives. The regulated principles may differ from country to country or from scripture to scripture, but that doesn't matter, but they are made according to the time and circumstances and mentality of the people. But the principle of regulated control is the same. Similarly, the government sets down certain regulations to be obeyed by its citizens. There is no possibility of making advancement in government or civilization without some regulations. In the words above, Sri Krishna tells Arjuna that the regulative principles of the Vedas are meant to control the three modes of material nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. Traigunya Vishaya Veda. However, Krishna is advising Arjuna to establish himself in his pure constitutional position as spirit soul, beyond the dualities of material nature. As we have already pointed out, these dualities, such as heat and cold, pleasure and pain, arise due to the contact of the senses with their objects. In other words, they are born of identification with the body. Krishna indicates that those who are devoted to enjoyment and power are carried away by the words of the Vedas, which promise pain or heavenly enjoyment by sacrifice and regulated activity. Enjoyment is our birthright, for it is the characteristic of the spirit soul. But the spirit soul tries to enjoy materially, and this is the mistake.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. Tulasi Mataji, please read.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Everyone is turning to material subjects for enjoyment and is compiling as much knowledge as possible. Someone is becoming a chemist, physicist, politician, or artist, or whatever. Everyone knows something of everything and everything of something, and this is generally known as the knowledge. But as soon as we leave the body, all of this knowledge is vanished. In a previous life, one may be a great man of knowledge, but in this life he has to start again by going to school or learning how to read and write from the beginning. Whatever the knowledge was acquired in the previous life is forgotten. This situation is what we are actually seeking eternal knowledge, but this cannot be acquired by this material body. We are all seeking enjoyment through these senses, but bodily enjoyment is not our actual enjoyment. It is artificial. We have to understand that if we want to continue in this artificial enjoyment, we will not be able to attain our position of eternal enjoyment. The body must be considered as diseased condition. A diseased man cannot enjoy himself properly. A man with jaundice, or for instance, will taste sugar candy as a bitter, but a healthy man can taste its sweetness. In either case, the sugar candy is the same, but according to our condition, it tastes different. Unless we are cured of this diseased conception of bodily life, we cannot taste the sweetness of spiritual life. Indeed, it will taste bitter to us. At the same time, by increasing our enjoyment of material life, we are further complicating our diseased condition. A typhoid patient cannot eat solid food, and if someone gives it to him to enjoy, he eats it, he is further complicating his malady and endangering his life. If we really want freedom from the miseries of material existence, we must minimize our bodily demands and pleasures.
Example is given, Prabhupada. A person, typhoid, a typhoid patient cannot eat solid food. Even if someone gives something he needs to enjoy, he eats it, but is further complicating his malady and endangering his life. Similarly, if we really want to freedom from the miseries of material existence, we must minimize our bodily demands and pleasures. Moderate eating, moderate living, The simple living. That's why Prabhupada writes this statement. Simple living, high thinking. To save time for the services of Krishna. This is a statement. Simple living and high thinking. Simple life. Think about our next life. That is the target, right? Many times he has written in his purports. Back home, back to God. So that's the thing. Minimize. Moderately we have to take. For everything. All material things, we just have to minimal, simple life. Yeah. Thank you, Mataji. Hema Mataji, please go ahead.
Actually, material enjoyment is not enjoyment at all. Real enjoyment does not cease. In the Mahabharata, there is a verse, Ramante Yogino Nante, to the effect that the yogis, yogina, those who are endeavoring to elevate themselves to a spiritual platform, are actually enjoying Ramante. But their enjoyment is Anante, endless. This is because their enjoyment is in relation to the supreme enjoyer, Rama, Sri Krishna. Bhagavan Sri Krishna is a real enjoyer, and Bhagavad Gita confirms this. Bhoktaram yagnatapasam sarvalokamaheshwaram sahridam sarvabhutanam natva mam shantim rachati. The sages, knowing me as the ultimate enjoyer of all sacrifices and austerities, the supreme lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attain peace from the pangs of material miseries. Bhagavad Gita 5th chapter 29 Shloka. Bhoga means enjoyment, and our enjoyment comes from understanding our position as the enjoyed. The real enjoyer is the Supreme Lord, and we are enjoyed by Him. An example of this relationship can be found in the material world between the husband and the wife. The husband is the enjoyer, Purusha, and the wife is the enjoyed, Prakriti. The word Pri means woman, Purusha or spirit is the subject, and Prakriti or nature is the object. The enjoyment, however, is participated in both by the husband and the wife. When actual enjoyment is there is no distinction that the husband is enjoying more or the wife is enjoying less. Although the male is the predominator and the female is the predominated, there is no division when it comes to enjoyment. On a larger scale, no living entity is the enjoyer. God expanded into many, and we constitute those expansions. God is one without a second, but He willed to become many in order to enjoy. We have experienced that there is little or no enjoyment in sitting alone in a room talking to oneself. However, if there are 5 people present, our enjoyment is enhanced. And if we can discuss Krishna before many people, the enjoyment is all the greater. Enjoyment means variety. God became many for His enjoyment, and thus our position is that of enjoyed. That is our constitutional position and the purpose for our creation. Both enjoyer and the enjoyed have consciousness, but the consciousness of the enjoyed is subordinate to the consciousness of the enjoyer. Although Krishna is the enjoyer and we the enjoyed, the enjoyment can be participated in equally by everyone. Our enjoyment can be perfected when we participate in the enjoyment of God. There is no possibility in our enjoying separately on the bodily platform. Material enjoyment on the gross bodily platform is discouraged throughout Bhagavad Gita. Matra sparshastu kaunteya sitoshna sukha dukkada agamapayino nityastam titikshasva bharatha. O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of heat and cold, happiness and distress, and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, ocean of Bharata, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter, 14th Shloka.
Okay, Mataji. Yeah. Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
So, one question. So, Prabhupada is given here 2 examples. So, this material world, one yes or no kind of thing, is this material world for his enjoyment or not? This material world creation, whatever material world creation comes from Krishna
Krishna, yes.
for his enjoyment or
For his enjoyment.
For his enjoyment only, Prabhu.
for his enjoyment.
Yeah.
What Prabhupada has given example?
Husband, wife, and
That's one example. And another example? We see, right?
Purusha Prakriti.
Purusha Prakriti is a Purusha, Supreme Personality of God, and Prakriti is the female part. Similarly, this one, if a person sitting in one room, talking,
Alone.
how long he can talk himself. But if there are 5 friends, the difference is different, right? I mean, you're relishing it, they're discussing. Similarly, this material creation is entire material and spiritual creation for his enjoyment only, for Krishna's enjoyment only. A simple example Prabhupada has given, so he wanted to experience enjoyment, different pastimes, different creation, different planetary systems. So of course, even though it is material world, but still it is for his enjoyment. He is putting some souls into miserable condition and see, he is watching, but he is always merciful, Karuna Sindhu. But if he tries to understand him, if he tries to serve him, he is the most merciful person and is very intimate to he's very intimate. Nobody is closer than Krishna actually. He is sitting as a super soul in our bodies. Right? Nobody is, even family, relatives, even our son, daughter, no. Super soul is very close. Is just besides heart. That's the thing. So this material world is for his enjoyment. Spiritual world is for his enjoyment. Everything is for his enjoyment. He don't want to enjoy alone. That's why he has expanded into different multifarious manifestations to enjoy. Different pastimes, different loving exchanges, different things. Yeah. Thank you, Mataji. Next, Vanilla Mataji, please go ahead.
The gross material body is a result of interaction of the modes of material nature, and it is doomed to destruction. Antavanta ime deha nitya sakta saririna anasina prameyasya tasmad yujyasya bharata. Only the material body of the indestructible, immeasurable, and eternal living entity is subject to destruction. Therefore, fight, O descendant of Bharata. Bhagavad Gita 2.18. Sri Krishna therefore encourages us to transcend the bodily conception of existence and attain our actual spiritual life. Guna Netan Atitya Dehi Deha Samudbhavan Janma Mrityu Jara Dukkhair Vimukta Amritan Asnute. When the embodied being is able to transcend these 3 modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance, he can become free from birth, death, old age, and their distractions, and can enjoy the nectar even in this life. Bhagavad Gita 14.20.
Very beautiful statement. Prabhupada writes here, Sri Krishna therefore encourages us to transcend the bodily conception of existence and attain our actual spiritual life. And he quotes from Bhagavad Gita, 14 chapter, 28 verse, 20 verse. Gunanetan atityatrin dehi deha samudbhavan janma mrityu jara dukkhe vimuktomrutam asune. And that means we can experience the spiritual life in this material world also. When we transcend bodily conception of life, transcend these modes. So process is, how can we transcend these modes? How can we transcend? What is the method? Krishna says in the same 14th chapter only. 24, no? That is one verse. Mamchaya vicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatityaitana brahma bhuyaya kalpate. He has given the method also. Bhakti yogena sevate. Bhakti yoga. Adopt the principles of bhakti yoga. Then slowly we will transcend these modes and bodily concept of life. Thank you, Mataji. You can complete this paragraph here.
To establish ourselves on the pure Brahmabhuta spiritual platform above these three modes, we must take up the method of Krishna consciousness. The gift of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the chanting of the names of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, facilitates this process. This method is called Bhakti Yoga or Mantra Yoga, and it is employed by the highest transcendentalists. How the transcendentalists realize their identity beyond birth and death, beyond this material body, and transfer themselves from the material universe to spiritual universes are subject to the following subjects of the following chapters.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mother. So nicely painted, Very good. Krishna and Radha and Krishna. Yeah. We have completed the first chapter, then we'll go to other. Yeah. Sirisha Mother.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Second
Eviction.
chapter. Elevation.
Elevation at death. There are different kinds of transcendentalists who are called yogis, hatha yogis, jnana yogis, dhyana yogis, and bhakti yogis. And all of them are eligible to be transferred to the spiritual world. The word yoga
means to link up, and the yoga systems are meant to enable
us to
link with the transcendental world. As mentioned in the previous chapter,
originally we are all connected.
We are all connected to the Supreme Person, Supreme Lord. But now we have been affected by material
contamination.
The process is that we have to return to the spiritual world, and that process of linking up is called yoga. Another meaning of the word yoga is plus. At the present moment, we are minus God or minus the Supreme. When we add Krishna or God to our lives, this human form of life becomes perfect. At the time of death, we have to finish that process of perfection. During our lifetime, we have to practice the method of approaching the perfection, so that at the time of that, when we have to give up this material body, that perfection can be realized.
Very good, Adya. Hari bol. Hari bol. Nice. Very good. So Prabhupada says about the add Krishna into our lives. Plus Krishna. So far, we are suffering in previous lifetimes, different things. Minus Krishna. Problem is minus Krishna. So we got the human body, add Krishna into our life. Krishna, that's where it says Krishna-centered activities. There is one verse actually, I forgot. Krishna-centered. Yeah. Krishna-centered activities. Plus, another meaning, word yoga is plus. At the present moment, we are minus God or minus the Supreme. When we add Krishna or God to our lives, this human form of life becomes perfect. Who is saying? This is Srila Prabhupada is saying, our Jagat Guru, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So, right. So we have to adopt principles of devotional life, Krishna-centered activities. Actually, there is a beautiful verse. I couldn't recall. Yeah. Let me read this and I'll go over to you. Prayana kale manasa chalena bhaktya yukto yoga balena chaiva bhruvor madhye pranam aveshya samyak satam param purusham upaiti divyam. One who at the time of death fixes his life air between the eyebrows and in full devotion engages himself in remembering the Supreme Lord will certainly attain to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bhagavad Gita 8.10. Just as a student studies a subject for 4 or 5 years and then takes his examination and receives a degree. Similarly, with the subject of life, if we practice during our lives for the examination at the time of death, if we pass the examination, we are transferred to the spiritual world. Our whole life is examined at the time of death. That's what Srila Prabhupada, no? The whole life is a preparation. Death is an examination. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tejate ante kalevaram tam tamevaiti kaunteya sada bhava bhavitaha. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, that state he will attain without fail. Guarantee. Whatever state of consciousness one remembers when he quits his body, that state he will attain without fail. Yeah, go ahead, Mataji, again. I think who is Lakshmi. Lakshmi Mata, Hare Krishna. You want to read?
Prabhuji, I'm unable to read, Prabhuji. I'm suffering severe cough.
Okay,
I'm just here to listen.
Listening, sure. Take care, Mataji. Take care of you.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhuji.
Yes, Hare Krishna. Thank you for joining. Yeah. Samyukta Mataji, please read again. Yes, start.
Yes, Prabhuji. There is a Bengali proverb that says that whatever one does for perfection will be tested at the time of his death. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna describes what one should do when giving up the body. For the Dhyana Yoga meditator, Sri Krishna speaks the following verses. Yadaksharam veda vido vadanti vishanti yat yatayo vitaragaha yat icchanto brahmacharyam charanti tatte padam sangrahena pravakshase sarvadvarani samyamya manohridi nirudhya cha murdhini adhyatmanah pranam astito yoga dharanam. Persons learned in the Vedas who utter Omkara and who are the great sages in the renounced order enter into the Brahman. Desiring such perfection, one practices celibacy. I shall now explain to you this process by which one may attain salvation. The yogic situation is that of detachment from all sensual engagement, closing all the doors of the senses and fixing the mind on the heart and the life air at the top of the head. One establishes himself in yoga. Bhagavad Gita 8.11 to 12. In the yoga system, this process is called pratyahara, which means just the opposite. Although during life the eyes are engaged in seeing worldly beauty, at death one has to restract the senses from their objects and see the beauty within. Similarly, the ears are accustomed to hearing so many sounds in the world, but at the moment of death, one has to hear the transcendental Omkara from within. Om iti eksharam brahma vyavaharan mam anusmaran yah prayati tyajan deham sayati paramam gatim. After being situated in this yoga practice and vibrating the sacred syllable Om, the supreme combination of letters, if one thinks the supreme personality of Godhead and quits his body, he will certainly reach the spiritual planets. Bhagavad Gita 8.13.
Okay, Mataji. Thank you.
Yes, Prabhu.
So that is given how one plays consciousness. Of course, Krishna is given that method, but devotees who always thinks about Krishna does not require this because they always absorbed in Krishna. There is no special thing because already senses are completely engaged in serving Lord. That Krishna himself says in the Bhagavad Gita, right? So this is giving for yogic process, how the yogis meditate upon Supreme. Yes. Yeah, Tulasi Mataji, you want to read?
Yes, Hare Krishna.
Yeah, in this way.
way, all the senses have to be stopped in their external activities and concentrated on the form of Vishnumurti, the form of God. The mind is very turbulent, but it has to be fixed on the Lord in the heart. When the mind is fixed within the heart and the life air is transferred to the top of the head, one can attain perfection of yoga. At this point, the yogi becomes material universe. There are planets, and beyond this universe, there is the yogis have information of these places just as America can get some idea what the country is like by reading. Can also have a knowledge of the spiritual planets by reading Vedic literature. The yogi knows all these and transfer himself planet he likes without the help of the spaceships. A space travels by mechanical, not the accepted process for other planets. Perhaps with a great deal of time, effort, and money, and maybe other planets by mechanical means, spaceships, space suits, etc. But this is very cumbersome and impractical. In any case, it is not possible beyond the material mechanical method. The generally accepted method for transfer to higher planets is the practice of meditational yoga or jnana system. The bhakti yoga system, however, is not to be practiced for transfer to any material planet. For those who are servants of Krishna, Supreme Lord, are not interested in any planets in this because they know that on whatever planet one enters in the material sky, the four principles of birth, old age, disease, and death are present. On the higher planets, the duration of life may be longer than Earth, but that is there. By material universe, we refer to those planets where the birth, old age, disease, and death reside, and by spiritual universe, we refer to those planets where there is no death, old age, disease, and death. Those who are intelligent do not try to upgrade themselves to any planet within the material world. If one tries to enter higher planets by mechanical means, instant death is occurred, for the body cannot.
తులసి మాతది యాక్చువల్గా ఎందుకో ఇంటర్నెట్ ఫీబుల్ అవుతుందో ఏమో మధ్య మధ్యలో సరిగా విన్ రావట్లేదు.
నెట్ ప్రాబ్లం ఉందేమో ప్రభుజీ.
అచ్చా అచ్చా దట్స్ ఫైన్. అంటే ఆన్ అండ్ ఆఫ్ అవుతుంది. ఇప్పుడు క్లియర్ ఉంది.
ఓకే ప్రభుజీ, వేరే రూమ్ లోకి వచ్చాను. ఇప్పుడు చూద్దాం. ఇన్ కేస్ ఇఫ్ ఇట్ ఈస్ లైక్ దట్ ఓన్లీ ఐ యామ్ నాట్ రీడింగ్.
యా ఇట్ క్లియర్. ఓకే
ఓకే
చదవండి ఇది ఒకటి. యా ఈ పారాగ్రాఫ్ చదవండి.
ఓకే ప్రభుజీ. If one tries to enter higher planets by mechanical means, instant death is assured for the body cannot stand the radical changes in atmosphere. But if one attempts to go to the higher planets by means of the yoga system, he will acquire a suitable body for entrance. We can see this demonstrated on the death. Prabhuji, paiki vellipoyinadu.
Demonstrated on this actually. Okay.
Paiki. Yeah.
Yes.
We can see this demonstrated on this earth, for we know it is not possible for us to live in the sea in a watery atmosphere, nor is it possible for aquatic to live on the earth. As we understand that even on this planet, one has to have a particular type of body to live in a particular place. So a particular type of body is required for other planets. On the higher planets, bodies live much longer than on earth. For 6 months on the earth is equal to 1 day on the higher planets. Thus, the Vedas describe that those who live on higher planets live upward to 10,000 earth years. Yet too, despite such a long lifespan, death avoids everyone. Even if one lives 20,000 or 50,000 or even millions of years in the material world, the years are all counted and death is there. How can we escape this subjugation to death? That is the lesson of Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita 2.2. Prabhuji, Shloka please avtara. Najayate mriyate va kadachin nayam bhutva bhavita va na bhuya ajo nitya sasvatoyam puranum na hanyate hanyamane sasire. Sarire.
Yes.
The soul, there is never birth nor death, nor once having been, does he ever cease to be. He is unborn, eternal, ever existing, undying, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain.
Yes.
Continue
Thank you.
cheyamantaru.
But I just want to say here. So this is the soul's nature. Second chapter, 20th verse. What is the soul's nature? Soul's nature is eternal. Is unborn, eternal, ever existing, undying, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain. That is, in our bodies, what is the eternal thing? Soul. Soul part is eternal thing. And it is unborn. Eternal, always existing. Always existing through different bodies. Of course, changing bodies. But when we go back home, back to Godhead, we get our constitutional position, our Swarupa in the spiritual world. So this is the soul's nature described in the Bhagavad Gita. Mata. Yeah, you can read one more paragraph and then, yes. Yeah, we are spirit soul. Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yeah. You want to read?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
We are spirit soul, and as such, we are eternal. Why then should we subject ourselves to birth and death? One who asks this question is to be considered intelligent. Those who are Krishna conscious are very intelligent because they are not interested in gaining entrance to any planet where there is death. They will reject a long duration of life in order to attain a body like unto gods. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchitananda Vigraha. Sat means eternal. Chit means full of knowledge. And Ananda means full of pleasure. Krishna is the reservoir of all pleasure. If we transfer ourselves from this body into the spiritual world, either to Krishna Loka, Krishna's planet, or any other spiritual planet, we will receive a similar Satchitananda body. Thus, the aim of those who are in Krishna consciousness is different from those who are trying to promote themselves to higher planets within this material. Can you scroll, Prabhuji?
Yeah.
Material world. The self of soul of the individual is a minute spiritual spark. The perfection of yoga lies in the transferal of this spiritual spark to the top of the head. Having attained this, the yogi can transfer himself to any planet in the material world according to his desire. If the yogi is
Curious. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Power gun, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
If the yogi is curious to know what the moon is like, he can transfer himself there. Or if he is interested in higher planets, he can transfer himself there. Just as travelers go to New York, Canada, or other cities on the earth. Wherever one goes on earth, he finds the same visa and customs systems operating. And on all the material planets, one can similarly see the principles of birth, old age, disease, and death operating. Om iti iksharam ekaksharam brahma. Om iti ekaksharam brahma. At the point of death, the yogi can pronounce Om Omkara, the
Concise.
The concise form of transcendental sound vibration. If the yogi can vibrate the sound and at the same time, Anusmaram, remember Krishna or Vishnu, he attains the highest goal. It is the process of yoga to concentrate the mind on Vishnu. The impersonalists imagine some form of the Supreme Lord, but the personalists do not imagine this. They actually see, whether one imagines him or actually sees him. One has to concentrate his mind on the personal form of Krishna. Ananyacheta satatam yo mam smarati nityasa tasyaham sulabam partha nityayuktasya yogina. For one who remembers me without deviation, I am easy to obtain. O son of Partha, because of his constant engagement in devotional service. Bhagavad Gita 8.14. They want to read, Prabhuji.
Yeah. Yes. Read actually.
Those
One second. Adya. Before that, just one time. Ananya Cheta Satatam Yoga Mam Smarati Nityasaha. This is very important one. One second. Yeah. Yeah. Ananya Cheta Satatam Yomam Smarati Nityata. Yomam Smarati Nityata. Smarati Nityata means always remembering him. Tasyaham Sulabha Partha Nitya Yuktasya Yoginaha. For one who remembers me without deviation, I am easy to obtain. Osanna Pruta, because of his constant engagement in devotional service. Nitya Yukta is important word, and Smarati Nityasaha, always engaging, always serving, engagement. Then easy to obtain Krishna. We possess Krishna. See, when we call pure devotees, now what is their business? What is their business? Pure devotees' business? Mata is had. What is the pure devotee's business? This is what pure devotee's business. 8.14. Constant engagement. They never forget Krishna. They always think about Krishna. They always render service to Krishna. That's why they become pure. That's why they call pure devotees of the Lord. Yes. Yeah. Go ahead, Adya. Yes, read some part. Thank you for your interest to read. Very nice. Read.
Those who are satisfied with temporary life,
Temporary pressure,
the temporary facilities are known not to be considered intelligent, at least not according to Bhagavad Gita. One whose brain substance is very small is interested in temporary things. According to the Gita, we are eternally. So why should we be interested in temporary things? No one wants a non-permanent situation. If we are living in an apartment and the landlord asks us to vacate, we are sorry, but we are not sorry if we move into a better apartment. It is our nature. Because we are permanent. To want permanent residence. We do not wish. We do not wish to die because in actuality we are permanent. Nor do we want to grow old or be deceased because these are all eternal, external or non-permanent states. All through we are, although we are not meant to suffer from fever. Sometimes fever comes and we have to take precautions and remedies to get well again. The fourfold miseries are like a fever, and they are all due to the material body. If somehow we can get out of the material body, we can escape the miseries that are intelligent with it. Integral with it. Thank you.
Very nice. Very nice, Adya. So if we are Krishna conscious, we won't see any problem. Right? Fourfold miseries. Fourfold means we don't want to become old. We don't want to get diseased. Right? So these are all external. Prabhupada is saying external things. We are not meant to suffer from fever. Sometimes fever comes due to body. If somehow we can get out of the material body, we can escape the miseries that are integral with it. How can we somehow get out of the material body? Means we have to work. What needs to be done in order to get out of this material body, material problems? We have to, Prabhupada is given an example of an apartment example. We are living in an apartment. The landlord, the owner asks us to vacate, and we are sorry. But we are not sorry. If we move into better apartment, it is our nature because we are permanent. We wanted to a better place. This better place is Golok Vrindavana. That means we won't get material body. We are getting spiritual bodies. Spiritual bodies are Satchit Ananda Vigraha. Ishvara Paramakrishna Satchit Ananda Vigraha. So there is no miseries. How can we get the Satchidananda Vigraha body? When we do nicely chanting, reading like this, understanding about Krishna, practice it. That's it. That's where we are getting back to our spiritual body. That body only, with that body, we will be able to live in spiritual world. Not material body lives in spiritual world. So, Krishna consciousness, Bhakti Yoga process to elevate ourselves, to purify our existence. Prabhupada writes, to elevate. That means we have. Adya, are you chanting with your mother? 1 round, 2 round? Hare Krishna, still there? Hare Krishna Mataji?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yeah. I'm asking Adya. Yeah. Chanting 1 round, just.
చేస్తుంది Prabhuji.
Very good. Yes. We just have to do sincerely chanting. Yes. Thank you, Mataji. Yes, Hema Mataji, please read Mataji.
For the impersonalists to get out of this temporary body, Krishna here advises that they vibrate the syllable Om. In this way, they can be assured of transmigration into the spiritual world. However, although they may enter the spiritual world, they cannot enter into any of the planets there. They remain outside in the Brahmajyoti. The Brahmajyoti may be likened unto the sunshine, and the spiritual planets may be likened unto the sun itself. In the spiritual sky, the impersonalists remain in the effulgence of the Supreme Lord, the Brahmajyoti. The impersonalists are placed in the Brahmajyoti as spiritual sparks, and in this way, the Brahmajyoti is filled with spiritual sparks. This is what is meant by merging into the spiritual existence. It should not be considered that one merges into the Brahmajyoti in the sense of becoming one with it. The individuality of the spiritual spark is retained, but because the impersonalist does not want to take a personal form, he is found as a spiritual spark in that effulgence. Just as the sunshine is composed of so many atomic particles, so the Brahmajyoti is composed of so many spiritual sparks. However, as living entities, we want enjoyment. Being in itself is not enough. We want bliss, Ananda, as well as being, Sat. In his entirety, the living entity is composed of three qualities: eternality, knowledge, and bliss. Those who enter impersonally into the Brahmajyoti can remain there for some time in full knowledge that they are now merged homogeneously with Brahman. But they cannot have that eternal Ananda, bliss, because that part is wanting. One may remain alone in a room for some time and may enjoy himself by reading a book or engaging in some thought, but it is not possible to remain in that room for years and years at a time, and certainly not for all eternity. Therefore, for one who merges impersonally into the existence of the Supreme, there is every chance of falling down again into the material world in order to acquire some association. This is the verdict of Srimad Bhagavatam. Astronauts may travel thousands and thousands of miles, but if they do not find rest on some planet, they have to return again to Earth. In any case, rest is required. In the impersonal form, rest is uncertain. Therefore, Srimad Bhagavatam says that even after so much endeavor, if the impersonalist enters into the spiritual world and acquires an impersonal form, he returns again into the material world because of neglecting to serve the Supreme Lord in love and devotion. As long as we are here on earth, we must learn to practice to love and serve Krishna, the Supreme Lord. If we learn this, we can enter into those spiritual planets. The impersonalist position in the spiritual world is non-permanent. For out of loneliness, he will attempt to acquire some association. Because he does not associate personally with the Supreme Lord, he has to return again to the world and associate with conditioned living entities there.
Yes, Mataji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Yeah. See, this is what Prabhupada says, As long as we are here on earth, we must learn to practice to love and serve Krishna, the Supreme Lord. If we learn this, we can enter into the spiritual planets. Yeah, we just have to practice. Yeah. Vendala Mataji?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
It is of utmost importance, therefore, that we know the nature of our constitutional position. We want eternity, complete knowledge, and pleasure also. When we are left alone for a long time, we cannot have pleasure. We accept the pleasure given by the material world. In Krishna consciousness, real pleasure is enjoyed. In the material world, it is generally accepted that the highest pleasure is sex. This is a perverted reflection of the sex pleasure. In the spiritual world, the pleasure of association with Krishna. But we should not think that there is like the sex pleasure in the material world. No, it is different. But unless sex life is there in spiritual world, it cannot be reflected here. Here it is simply a perverted reflection, but the actual life is there in in Krishna, who is full of pleasure. Therefore, the best process to train ourselves now is that at the time of death, we may transfer ourselves to the spiritual universe, to Krishna Loka, and there associate with Krishna. In Brahma Samhita, Sri Krishna and his abode are described thus: Chintamani Prakrasadma Sukalpa Vriksha Laksha Vrutesha Surabhira Vipalayantam Lakshmi Sahasra Satasambhrama Sevyamanam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, the first progenitor, who is tending the cows, fulfilling all desire, in abodes built with spiritual gems, surrounded by millions of wish-fulfilling trees, always served with great reverence and affection by hundreds and thousands of Lakshmis or Gopis. Brahma Samhita 5.29. This is a description of Krishna Loka. The houses are made of what are called touchstone. Whatever touchstone touches immediately turns into gold. The trees are wish-fulfilling trees or desire trees, for one can receive from them whatever he wishes. In this world, we get mangoes from mango trees and apples from apple trees. But there from any tree, one can get whatever he desires. Similarly, the cows are called Surabhi, and they yield an endless supply of milk. These are descriptions of spiritual planets found in the Vedic scriptures. In this material world, we have become acclimatized to birth, and all sorts of suffering. Material scientists have discovered many facilities for sense enjoyment and distraction, but they have discovered no solution to the problems of old age, disease, and death. They cannot make any machine that will check death, old age, or disease. We can manufacture something that will accelerate death, but nothing will stop death. Those who are intelligent, however, are not concerned with the fourfold miseries of material life, but with elevation to the spiritual planets. One who is continuously in trance, Nitya Yukta Yoginaha, does not divert his attention to anything else. He is always situated in trance. His mind is always filled with the thought of Krishna without deviation. Ananya Cheta Satatam. Satatam refers to anywhere and anytime. In India, I lived in Vrindavana, and now I am in America, but this does not mean that I am out of Vrindavana, because if I think of Krishna always, then I am always in Vrindavana, regardless of material designation. Krishna consciousness means that one always lives with Krishna on spiritual planet Goloka Vrindavana, and that one is simply waiting to give up this material body. Smarati Nityasaha means continuously remembering, and for one who is continuously remembering Krishna, the Lord becomes Tasyaham Sudurlabhaha, easily purchased.
Tasyaham Sulabhaha.
Sulabha. Krishna himself says that he is easily purchased by Bhakti Yoga process. Then why should we take to any other processes? We can chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare 24 hours daily. There are no rules or regulations. One can chant in the street, in the subway, or at his home or office. There is no tax and no expense. So why not take to it?
Nice. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. This is third chapter, Mate. Let's see. This is beautiful, no? Srila Prabhupada ki jai. See. Smarati Nityasaha means continuously remembering. Smarati Nityasaha means continuously remembering. And for one who is continuously remembering Krishna, the Lord becomes Tasyaham Sulabhaha, easily purchased. Krishna himself says that he is easily purchased by this Bhakti Yoga process. How he turns the words, no? Srila Prabhupada, how can Tasyaham Sulabha is immediately available actually. When we take feedback means we won't realize that Krishna is with us, but he is there. He easily purchased by this Bhakti Yoga process. Then why should we take to another process? We can chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. 24 hours daily. There are no rules and regulations. One can chant in the street, in the subway, or at his home or office. There is no tax and no expense. Then why not to take it? Why not take it to it? Yeah, that is what Srila Prabhupada. Again, he ended with the same sloka. No? It starts with in this, I think in this chapter. We'll conclude here, but I'm just checking a few points and see. I will wrap up. Elevation at death. Actually, this is what so all the slokas from second chapter, 8th chapter, mostly second chapter I am seeing here about the soul's nature. That's where he is beyond birth and death. What is there, Mataji? What is beyond birth and death? Can you explain any, Mataji? 1 or 2 minutes. What is there beyond birth and death? By reading these 2 chapters, we read 2 chapters, I think. What is there beyond birth and death?
Our original constitutional position.
Yes, Mataji. What we hanker for? What is there actually? That's what I wanted to know. What is there beyond birth and death? Is something there? Why Prabhupada has put that title? Beyond birth and death? Relation and death. Mataji, other Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Karma, Prabhuji, beyond birth. Karma, soul.
Beyond birth and death. Okay, karma, that's one thing.
Soul, Prabhuji.
Correct. Soul is there.
Spiritual world.
That's what I wanted to. Beyond birth and death. So that spiritual world, there is no question of these 4 miseries, right? No question of birth, no question of death, no question of this disease, and no question of old age. Beyond birth and death. That's where Prabhupada proves from Bhagavad Gita, from different verses, the soul's nature, the spiritual world, how to meditate. What is the last lines in this second chapter? He is saying that ultimately Bhakti Yoga process is easy to adopt. And there is no hard and fast rules. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, right? In the Shikshashtakam, what he says? There are no hard and fast rules. The translation comes. Tatrarpita niyamita smaranena kala. Anytime we can chant. Anywhere we can chant. Tatrarpita niyamita smaranena kala. Namnamakari bahuda nija sarva shakti. Namnamakari bahuda nija sarva shakti. Krishna has invested so many potencies in the holy names. In this Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. That's why it's called Maha Mantra. And Tatrarpita Niyamita Smaranena Kala. There is no hard and fast rules that we can chant anywhere and everywhere. Ultimately, we have to remember Krishna. Always. That's the goal. Right? Smarati Nitya Saha is continuously we have to remember Krishna. When we continuously remember Krishna, Tasyaham Sulabha. Next. Krishna is available to us immediately. Easily. Tasyaham Sulabha. Easily purchased. Actually, we are purchasing Krishna with bead bag. With bead bag, beads, chanting. So, beyond birth and death, beyond bodily platform. On the soul platform, Prabhupada is explaining here in this book, beyond birth and death, there is a spiritual world. Beyond birth and death, there is spirit, soul, and living entities there who are serving Lord eternally. The soul's nature. So that's what it is. Actually, this is one of the book I have read in the beginning of my Krishna conscious years, Beyond Birth and Death, and there is one more book, Coming Back. See, different verses, that's where he's explaining. Anybody likes to add anything? We're on time. See, Ananya Cheta Satatam, where is saying? 8th chapter, 14th verse. Ananya Cheta Satatam, Yomam Smarati Nityasaha, Tasyaham Sulabha Partha. Tasyaham Sulabha. Ade explain chesindu Srila Prabhupada, last paragraph. Immediately available. Is immediately there. But what is expecting? Smarati Nityasaha. For who remembers me without deviation, no distraction, always remembers him. I am easy to obtain. Prutha, because of his Endugo he is easy to obtain, because he is constant engagement in devotional service, because he is following the Bhakti Yoga principles. Prahlad Maharaj is given, right? What is that? Prahlad Maharaj is given Bhagavatam.
9 processes.
9 processes of bhakti. Shavanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. Right? So that's the thing. And the soul's nature here described here, right? Najayate muriyate va kadachin nayam bhutva bhavitana vana bhuya ajo nitya shashvato yam purano na hanyate hanyamane sharire. When the body is destroyed, but soul is still there. That's why body may be died, but soul never dies. There is no question of death, because it's a eternal nature. The soul's nature is described. So beyond, so this birth, death, old age, disease, on what level this affects us? Is a spiritual or material?
Material.
Material. It's called, it's material things. So right, birth, death, old age and disease on the bodily platform, material bodies, not on the spiritual body. Spiritual bodies, there is no question. There is no question of these 4 things. But the soul is entrapped in this material body. That we have to understand. The soul is entrapped in this material body because of our past karma, because of our past deeds, karmic activities. So that's the thing. We just have to learn from Srila Prabhupada's purports. Body is temporary, soul is eternal. Whatever bodily activities are temporary only, and it gives temporary happiness, not giving eternal pleasure. When we get eternal pleasure? When we work on the soul platform. What is what we need to work on the soul platform? What are the activities that gives real pleasure to the soul?
Devotional service.
Devotional service, yes. Devotional service, Bhakti Yoga. Because these Bhakti Yoga principles beyond the 3 modes, not on the 3 modes level. See, why we are getting these different kinds of sufferings and different things? Because the 3 modes are acting on the material plane. Sattvagunam, Rajogunam, Tamogunam. So that's the thing. We just have to practice sincerely and seriously. Success is guaranteed, already there.
So, like Krishna says in Deva Hesha Gunamayi.
Mataji?
As Krishna says, like Daivi Hesha Gunamayi Mamaya Durataya Mamaya Prapadyanta Maya Mitam.
Maya Mitam Tarantite. Daivi Hesha Gunamayi. Yes. The 3 modes are like jail. So the 3 modes, beyond the 3 modes, Daivi Hesha Gunamaya Mamamaya Durataya. But Mam eva prapadyante mayametam taranti. If you surrender to me, nothing. I will take care of these three modes. I'll take care of everything actually. Correct, Mother. Thank you for sharing that verse. Okay. Thank you so much. We'll connect on Wednesday for your enthusiasm. And when you are reading means we are getting knowledge by Prabhupada purports, and his understandings is giving examples. He's giving nice knowledge so nicely. Beyond birth and death. The title is so nicely put. Beyond birth and death. What exactly there beyond birth and death? If a person inquisitive, this book is really helps. What exactly beyond birth and death? So easily quoted, Bhagavad Gita, different verses in connected to this topic. Beyond birth and death. Small book. So good. Thank you so much. Again, Matayis, Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhu Evacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo, Namo Namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrunda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Gurudev ki jai. Nitai Gaur Hari Premanande, Hari Hari. Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you all on Wednesday. Hare Krishna. Let us complete this book.